Hey guys, what's happening? Nihat here with Film Comics Explained, and today we'll be taking a look at the Skullcrawlers, which were featured in the 2017 Kong Skull Island, directed by Jordan Roberts, starring Tom Hiddleston, Brie Larson, Samuel L. Jackson, and John C. Reilly. The Cranium Reptants, more commonly referred to as the Skullcrawlers by Marlowe, were massive kaiju that inhabited Skull Island, the mysterious home of Kong and his ancestors. With the adults standing at a height of over 30 meters and weighing in between 50 to 80 tons depending on their maturity, the species was essentially responsible for wiping out Kong's entire family, leaving him to reign as the sole king of Skull Island. The crawlers were essentially large reptilian creatures that featured two long forelimbs and no hind limbs, as well as a long, powerful, prehensile, serpentine tail. Their forelimbs were also extremely powerful and sturdy, and with no rear legs, they would use their two arms and tail to crawl with great speed. Their heads noticeably resembled those of prehistoric mosasaurs, and featured two rows of serrated razor-sharp teeth. Much of their scaly appearance and structure was also noticeably skeletal, with jagged bony protrusions on either elbow, a bony back, and with the majority of their density being made up of bone and tough cartilage. This physical composition essentially allowed them to burrow and travel underground without getting crushed by the enormous pressure above them. And in addition to their powerful prehensile tails, they also had useful prehensile triple forked tongues that could be used to pull live food directly into their mouths. This evolutionary trait came about as a result of their overdeveloped sense of hunger, which led Monarch to designate them herbivores, which were essentially creatures with such a hyper-adrenalized metabolism that they would exist in a constant state of extreme starvation. The reptilian giants also had an overdeveloped olfactory system that could sense warm-blooded life across great distances, and once they'd picked up your scent, you were as good as gone unless Kong had your back. The most striking thing about the Skullcrawlers was their chilling lidless skull face and two dark lifeless eyes that served to distract and trick their prey, while their real eyes watched you from further back. The creatures also had incredible durability, clearly unfazed by weapons fire, though the flamethrower was seen to cause them great pain. Unlike Kong, who worked to keep order on the island, the sole purpose of the voracious Cranium Reptants was to devour, destroy, and dominate every living thing they came across. Subterranean in nature, the crawlers inhabited the geologically unstable gas vents across the island, coming out from time to take on King Kong in an attempt to remove him from his throne. In the film, it's the seismic charges dropped by the Monarch expedition to the island in the 70s that led to their resurgence, and also explained why Kong was so furious at the humans, having just destabilized the balance he had worked so hard to create. The crawlers were highly aggressive and incredibly persistent in pursuing their prey, often working as a pack, though some of the adults have engaged in hunting on their own. The creatures also had insatiable appetites and a heightened metabolism, much like Kong and the other creatures which had evolved on the island over millions of years without interference from the outside world, due in part to the mysterious and powerful storms that acted as a deterrent and a cloak of invisibility. Much like the other hunters on the island, they also showed a measure of intelligence, as was demonstrated when one of the crawlers which had been pursuing the crew refused to devour Cole, who was armed to the teeth with explosives, choosing to swat him away instead. In the fantastic graphic novel The Birth of Kong, which was written by Arvid Nelson and illustrated by my good friend Zid, it's explained that the Skullcrawlers had attempted to invade Skull Island by waging war against his ancestors for thousands of years, nearly annihilating his entire species with their rapid breeding and growth. Knowing that the film was going to be compared to Peter Jackson's epic King Kong, Roberts had specifically requested his designers to come up with something distinct and different, with specific instructions not to use dinosaurs like Jackson before them, and this is essentially how they came about with the unique two-legged design for the Skullcrawlers. Well, that's all for today, folks. Thanks to all of you guys who requested we take a look at the Skullcrawlers featured in Skull Island. Don't forget to hit subscribe and click the notification icon to stay up to date on all my content. And if there's any other stuff you'd like me to check out, please don't hesitate to ask. As always, it's been a pleasure. Nihat here with Film Comics Explained. Thanks for stopping by.